Morning, guys. Kurt from Time Machine Transport. So, got some pretty good comments on my story time. So I'm doing another story time. And these aren't stories. These aren't like, oh, I'm gonna tell you a bedtime story. Like these. That's why I call them truths, because this shit really happened. Unless you don't believe the truth is the truth. I like to tell people. How does it go? The truth ends where a lies start, or a lies start where the truth ends. And an old timer told me one time, he said, you can always tell the truth never changes, but a lie always changes. A Chinaman once said, a good truth will not always be a good lie. Anyways. So I was talking to my our tire guy, Bill, at the shop the other day. I'm heading out to the shop right now. They're going to replace they're checking out my spindles on my trailer that rolled. I think they might be bent. So I'll do a video on that. So I'm at the shop, taking all the shit off of the axle of the trailer, the hub and brakes, and seal all that stuff. And he comes over, get the tires, because we're putting 4 new tires on that side. And we're talking, and I've known Bill for quite some time. And we started talking about our parents. And he had told me that his father had committed suicide years ago. And he actually found him in his shop. Bill found his dad in his shop, deceased. So as we're talking, I'm like, oh shit, man, I told Bill about this truth. Before trucking, which I got my CDL in 2009, when the 2008 real estate market burst, I was owed a lot of money, a couple $100,000. I had 15 guys, 3 trucks. We were doing a lot of houses, but the investors I had, they like to have the finer things in life. We'll just say that. So, and I don't have any bitterness towards them. I would do it all over again. I'll have to tell you about the time when Ernie Eubanks, a pastor with 9 kids, screwed me out of $55,000. And how my ex-partner was on America's Most Wanted. These are all truths, man. So back then, the reason why I bring that up is because I was in real estate. We were flipping houses, and things were good for a while, and then they got really bad for a long time. So I had this investor, Richard Stolp, and him and his wife Judy had money. And Judy and Dick had a son together. Once upon a time, there was Judy and Dick. They had a child together. His name's Jake. And then Judy had a child prior to Dick and Judy getting married. His name's Chad. So this was probably mid-2000s maybe, and Dick calls me and says, hey, can you do me a favor? He said, Chad and Melissa is Chad's first cousin, and he says so I guess I have to back up, sorry. So Chad and Melissa had gotten into, you guys ever see those like infomercials, like get rich on real estate fucking at 3 o'clock in the morning, and how they're, that you can become millionaires if you follow their course or whatever. That's not what I had did. This is what Chad and Melissa had done, and they had actually borrowed the money from Dick and Judy. Mouth is dry. And so the cult if you will, that Chad and Melissa were in. Their format was you pay them thousands of dollars, this real estate guru, and then in return they'll send you these, manuals and how their program works. And they also mail you listings. I don't know if it was every year or every month or whatever the case is, but this guru would send you bank information on the people that own the house that were currently in foreclosure. And then it was up to you, the investor, to contact the people and say, hey, listen, I'm such and such. We know that your property's in foreclosure, and typically in a foreclosure situation, if you're not paying or whatever, the bank will come and repossess that house in a year. That's typical. So I would imagine that this had gone on for a few months, that you owed the bank, so then your private information goes to this real estate guru, and then you contact them if you're one of the investors and say, hey, I'm such and such, we know you're in foreclosure. I'll tell you what, if you move out of the house and give us the opportunity to remodel the house and get it on the market, when it sells, I don't know the whole ins and outs of it as far as like percentages or if there's a flat rate that the current homeowner gets, whatever. So basically what happens is they have a window of opportunity to get that house on the market and sold before the bank can repossess it. So that's what Chad and Melissa did, but with Dick and Judy's money. And so Chad, he was an electrician for a big company here in Wisconsin, Roman Electric, and he did not own a personal vehicle because the company gave Chad a company vehicle to drive to and from work, because he was always on job sites, and they would allow him to drive it personally, I would imagine. So Dick calls me and says, hey, listen, Chad's he's a great electrician, but he's that's all he knows. And he said he's struggling with this house because he doesn't really have the tools or the experience to get it done. He said, would you mind going over there and help him or give him some ideas, show him a few things? And he said it would really help me out. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I go over there. The house is in Pewaukee, Wisconsin, which it's an upper class suburb. Damn, lips are all dry. So I go out there to show Chad a few things, and he had already ripped out the front door entrance, and so I went over there because we used to do everything from the basement to the roof, and we did a pretty nice house. So I'm get out there. Chad's just there with Melissa. They're working together. You could see there's like tension there. You could feel like there's a little tension there. And Melissa, very attractive, big titties, and my wife's gonna be mad at that. Hi, baby girl, I love you. So she was kind of digging me, and I could see that Chad, not like I'm some kind of fucking catch. Maybe she was just probably not. Maybe she was probably just trying to make him jealous, which will be relevant to the story at the end. So I can see Chad's getting irritated that she's like showing interest or whatever, and I can see he's got attitude, and he just says, "Yeah, we're good, girl. We don't really need help." I'm like, "All right." So I'm like, "Well, just if you have any questions, call me." Tell Richard that what had happened. He goes, "That fucking kid, man." He's like, and because Chad is his stepson, and his other child, Jake, that he and Judy had. Jake works with us on the construction side of things, and he's a real dipshit. I'll tell you a few truths about Jake. Anyways, So I tell Dick, yeah, he's in fucking neck deep on that house, man. And Dick's like, he's got to fucking get that thing sold, man. And he owes us a shit ton of money. So the window of opportunity is closing very rapidly on them to get this house on the market and sold before the bank repos it, or they lose all their money invested. And that's how them guru real estate get rich infomercials get you. So a week goes by, maybe two, but I think it was like a week. I get a call from Dick, and he's like, oh, fuck, man. He says, you are not going to believe what happened. And I'm like, what? He says, Chad killed Melissa. And I'm like, what? He said, yeah, he like clipped her. And I'm like, holy, like, I didn't know Chad. That was the first time I ever met him. And I told Dick, I'm like, he's kind of a weird dude. But I'm sure I could be a weird dude to people as well. So the truth goes, I don't know exactly all the details, but it went basically for the most part like this. So Chad and Melissa, Chad owned a duplex on 57th off of Lisbon in the city of Milwaukee, and that's important. So I don't know about important, but it's part of the story or the truth. So, and Stevie K, he knows this story because I told him right after it happened, right after I moved in. So, anyways, what's up, brother? Love you. So, Chad owns a duplex, and Melissa, his first cousin, is renting the upstairs, and he lives downstairs, working for Roman Electric. And somehow, some way, they became kissing cousins, like intimately. And so Melissa, moved from the upper unit to the lower unit, but the whole family thinks that she's still renting the upper unit. They don't know that Chad and her are lovers, baby, and they be stroking. And so whenever, and this had gone on for a long time, I guess, or I'm not really sure about a long time, but it had been going on for quite some time. Long time. I don't know if those are equal to each other, but anyways, so when they would go to work functions, Chad's work functions, everybody that was kind of in their group of friends thought that Melissa and Chad were boyfriend-girlfriend, not first cousins. I mean, if your first cousin's hot, I mean, why not? No. I had two first cousins that married. I'll tell you that another time, or maybe today. Anyways, so when they were at Chad's work functions, I don't know if Melissa worked or not, but they were looked at and viewed as and talked about as a couple, not first cousins. So Dick and Judy and a couple of their friends, because they both rode Harleys, Judy and Dick, they were at like this festival or something like that, and they ran into Chad and Melissa. And Chad and Melissa, Dick said they were acting really odd, like trying to keep, and it all came together after this happened. He said, oh, now it makes sense. So Chad and Melissa were trying to keep their friends and their co-workers separate from Dick and Judy and their friends. And Dick thought that was very strange, but he didn't think twice about it. And so, but then it made sense after Chad clipped Melissa. So Chad was a recovering alcoholic, so his family thought. But the friends, they knew that they both drank or whatever, because they didn't know that he was supposed to, that he had told his family and other friends that, he's a recovering alcoholic. And I'm not judging. I had my stint with drugs and booze and stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily say booze, but, things happen, right? We all change. We've all done things we're not proud of, for sure. So this window of opportunity on the Pewaukee house, it was a nice house. If he would have known what he was doing, he definitely could have sold it and made a profit. That was during the building heyday in the mid 2000s and the real estate boom. So they're extremely stressed. Like I said, when I showed up there, you could tell there was tension in the air. And so Chad and Melissa, not Matt, they had finished working on the Pewaukee house for the day, and they stopped and got a 12-pack of Heineken, and they went back to where they live, Chad's place. And Melissa was into those tarot cards or whatever. I don't know if she was psychic or just like a tarot card reader, or maybe a novice, or whatever. Maybe she just dabbled, whatever. And they were sitting on the floor in the dining room, all the lights off, and they were burning candles. And maybe it might have been something other than just the tarot cards. Who knows? Worship? I don't know. But anyways, so she's doing the card things, and I guess they had a few beers in them or whatever, maybe some DRUGSs. You can't really say stuff like that on this platform. They shut down your channel or whatever. So I don't know if that part was true, the DRUGSs, but the Heineken definitely was. But I assume, and so does Dick and Judy and anybody else who heard the story or the truth, said, yeah, that was definitely fueled by something other than Heineken beer. So they're sitting on the floor in the dining room, and Melissa is doing the cards, and she tells Chad, she's like, well, look at all the green trees. She tells Chad, oh my God, that's the blue fit. This is part that I'm not really 100% sure. I know they talked about it because it was in the police report that, and Dick and Judy, they were defending their son, or paying for the attorney or whatever, so they were privy to this stuff. And obviously they went to the court date or the court, days or whatever. So Melissa tells Chad, oh my God, Chad, that's the strongest deck in the card. This blue fairy card. And she goes, things are going to turn around for us. Things are really going to be positive from this point. That's she's really excited about this fucking blue fairy card. And Chad gets up and he says, oh no, that's not the strongest deck in the card. And he walks into their bedroom. Like I said, they're kissing cousins. And Chad goes and grabs his 4.5 and an extra mag, and he walks into the dining room. She doesn't know he's got the pistol. And he says, that's not the strongest card in the deck. The blue demon is the strongest card in the deck. And he smoked her. So I guess there was 14, which would almost make sense because, typically if a 45 holds 8 in a mag, depending on if you get a special mag or set, whatever the case is. So she had 14 entry wounds and 14 exit wounds. And he clipped her. So he I don't know if he was in panic or he just didn't want to spend the night in the house with a corpse. So Melissa had a car, and the house had a side drive with a garage in the back. And he left his Roman electric truck there, work truck, and he took Melissa's car. And when he was backing, it was a narrow driveway between the house and the driveway and the next door house. So when he was backing up, I don't know why he had the door open, the driver's side door open, because you could have looked at, maybe it didn't have a review mirror, I don't know. But anyways, when he backed up, the door got bent on the hinges, because when he was backing up, he left the driver's side door open, and when he backed up, the door caught the house, and he had to, and this was in the police report, he had to hold the door closed because he was driving out to Pewaukee to spend the night out there. So I don't know what the distance is, probably from 57th and Lisbon out to Pewaukee. Could be like 45 minutes-ish. You'd have to Google it. So he went out to the Pewaukee house and spent the night. Next day, he goes to I want to say it's not 2nd District. There's a police department right on like 40-something in North Avenue. I think that it's a Milwaukee Police Department, but it may be 5th District, whatever the case is. Anyway, so Chad pulls up to the police station and he puts the faux 5 on the passenger seat, and he goes inside the police department and says, "This is what I've done." And sure enough, they go, because it's not too far from the house on 57th. They go there, and sure enough, she's deceased. So he's arrested, of course, and I believe because he was trying to use, what I'm about trying to use, he was using the defense of the Blue Demon made him do it. And you can look this stuff up. So the judge gave him like 30-some years to life, I think it was. This was a long time ago. This is, like I said, in the mid-2000s. So I don't know if he's out or if he got life or whatever the case is. But anyways, so Dick and Judy bought the house, or they took over the payments from Chad's mortgage company, considering the circumstances. And I ended up buying the house and remodeling the whole entire house. My boy Delta, what's up, love you? He came into that house. He's like, "Dude, your house should have been in a magazine." It was very nice, and this was many years ago when, I don't know, I was different. And so anyway, so that house, I was telling Bill, my tire guy, I said, that house always gave me the creeps. Like, when because we redid we pulled up all the carpet and had, nice wood floors, oak wood floors. So we stripped everything down, sanded them, and then we did a 16-inch stained border around the outside of the floor, around the whole house, except for the kitchen and the bathroom where we laid tile. And then I kept the inside of the floor, inside the border, that was just clear coated oak, and it looked fabulous. But when we were pulling up the carpet, the whole area in the dining room, there was a lot of leftover blood, and we saw there was actually 45 holes through the floor. Not a lot, there was like 1 or 2. And right underneath it in the basement, right on top of the ductwork, there was like coagulated, pooled blood on top of the ductwork. Anyways, sorry. So when the 2008 market hit, I lost everything. I had to sell the house. It was very, very sad. But I was also relieved because of the things that, I would wake up from sleeping all night and the front door would be wide open. I had this like Oriental, like a gong thing I don't know what, is it gong? Is it, I don't know. But it had the little handle with the little drum thing on the end of it. And that was in my basement because we remodeled the whole basement and created a staircase that went up into the dining room from the base. So the basement was kind of part of the house. And I would hear that dong, not all the time, but once in a while. And I was like, fuck, man. And I would see these, it was almost like fishing line, but even thinner than fishing line. And you could see the shit going around the house. Like there was traces and tracks all over the place. It was really weird. And you could feel it on your skin. Like you could feel something like a string or something coming over your skin. And that house just creeped me out, man. And so I wasn't happy I had to sell it because we had a lot of time and money in it. But I was also relieved because the house gave me the creeps. But so let's talk about Jake. So that's the story of the Blue Demon. So Jake worked for us, or worked with us. And the kid was a dipshit. He was tall, skinny dude, just goofy as shit. Smoked a lot of weed. And so when we're remodeling 57th Street, Jake's throwing shit in because I had a pickup truck back then as well. And I just bought the truck. And so you know how when you get a nice vehicle, you really treat it well. And so we were putting all this stuff that we had demoed the house with into the back of my pickup truck, and 2x4s and just all kinds of stuff. And we were going to take it to the city dump. And Jake was just haphazardly, like just carelessly throwing the shit into the bed. And I told him, I said, Jake, man, be careful, dude. Because it was an extended cab Dodge. It didn't have the electric window like mine does now. It was the manual one, so it was the window with the slider window in the back. And I told him, I said, dude, be careful, man. You're going to fucking break my window. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, I hear, psh. And Jake says, dude, I'm like, you're paying for it. So anyways, and then we bought a multifamily on 30th in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, which is a rougher neighborhood, but it's near Marquette, so the area's, it's strange. It's like it's pricey, but it's dangerous. It's just really weird. They have like old style mansions around there that the Jews would own, or whoever. I don't know why I just said that, but the history says a lot of Jewish people owned a lot of mansions in that area, 100 years ago, whatever. So we buy this multifamily on 30th between Wisconsin and Michigan. And if you want, you can look it up. So the guys all leave for lunch, but when that happens, somebody always stays at the house because we were afraid people would break in. And that's another thing. I'll have to tell you about the time that we caught this motherfucker breaking in to one of our duplexes on 9th and Burleigh. I'll have to remind me. When I watch this video, I'll write it down because I watch all my videos just to see the views or whatever. So somebody would always stay at the house, so these fucking dopers, we'll just say that, couldn't, or they could break in, but somebody's there, so they don't steal the tools. And then at night we would just pack them up and put them in the trucks and leave for the day. So I'm staying back at the house doing tool watch, and so I go out on the front porch, nice day, and we're just waiting for the guys to come back, and then I'm going to lunch. So I hear this, Kurt! And I'm looking around, and this is during the day, lunchtime. And I'm looking around like, what the fuck? And he's like, Kurt! And I can't see the person that's calling my name, but I can hear it. It's like down the block, but I'm looking, I'm like, I don't see anything. Then I look, and there's a car parked on the end of the street at the corner. I see a head pop up, like if you're looking through a car, the car didn't have tinted windows, so if you're looking through the car, you can see somebody's at the back, like the trunk area, if you're looking through the front windshield. And I could see the head pop up and then it falls down. I'm like, what the fuck? So I jog up there. It's Jake. And I look down and he's wearing jeans, but his whole pocket, his right side of his pocket is gone. You can just see his leg and his smiley face boxers. Swear to God. And he's laying there. I'm like, what the fuck happened to you? This lady, this black lady, pulls up and she's like, oh my God, what happened? You would think that he'd be like, these guys robbed me, blah, blah, blah. But he doesn't. He says, I got robbed by these effing ends. The lady drives off. I'm like, what the fuck, Jake? So anyways, we call the police and the ambulance show up because he had this big ass fucking, like, you could see somebody stole on him, right? So they come, and then of course I called Dick. I'm like, hey, you know, Jake's hurt, whatever. So Dick comes down there and he's talking to Jake. Cops already got their statement. Ambulance checks him out. He's good to go. So his dad shows up, Dick. And so then Dick takes me to the side and he's like, this fucking kid, man. He says, because he smoked a lot of weed and I don't know what else he did, but he was trying to, in the hood, white dude, pocket full of fucking money because he got paid. And he says to these dudes, oh, you guys know where I can buy some? So they're opportunists, as I would probably be if I was a criminal. They say, sure, go out to our car. So this dumbass follows them. Right when they get out to the car, they're acting like they're getting the stuff for him. And they fucking just hammer this dude in the face, steal on him. And instead of going into his pocket, they literally ripped his entire fucking pocket off of his jeans and took off. So that's why he actually came stumbling back a few blocks actually, and was screaming my name. Never found the guys or whatever. But when Dick had so many complaints about this fucking knucklehead kid of his. And he was just like, this fucking kid this fucking kid that, this fucking kid this. And I'm like, Dick, you know, have you ever realized one major component in that kid? He's like, what? He's a dipshit. He's a fucking loser. He's a fucking leech. I said, he was your fastest sperm. So I told him, I said, Dick, that doesn't really say much for your sperm. Like, he was literally your fastest sperm. And so Dick was just saying, he's like, you motherfuckers. So, but anyways, yeah, I'll have to tell you about the time that we caught this other dude breaking into a house. I'll have to tell you some real estate stories, actually, or truths. Anyways, I got to get over here, getting some coffee and some donuts for the axle surgeon dudes. And I'll do a video on the axle surgeons if you guys are ever interested in doing anything like that. But anyways, please like and subscribe to the channel. Ciao.